What is going on, people? We are back again for the state of the franchise. We
Mhm.
got Sam Darnold on the docket. We've got draft recap. We got kickers to talk about. All right on the other side of the most fire intro in the game. Let's go. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now. It is the Friday after the draft. The dust has settled, and after all the mock drafting, all the speculation, the draft has come and gone, and we know who's going to be on the San Francisco 49ers. But before we get into all that good stuff, how's it going with my East Coast brother?
Great, man. You made me laugh before we got on. That's why, I was laughing. But fun time. I think this is like what next week is the schedule, and then we
Mhm.
can start setting our sights towards OTAs minicamp, which we have all of those dates now. And then before you know it is training camp, and what a training camp is going to be, Brad. I am ecstatic.
It is going to be one for the books. I know we've been talking about it for some time, but I feel like with the recent comments that continue to come out about Sam Darnold, and you guys all know what I'm talking about. You know, Matt Mayoka went on KNBR yesterday, if you missed it, and had a very, talk about dropping a quote bomb, like just something that you could pull, throw on social media, and watch social media incinerate as a result. It basically was of the effect, right, that Sam Darnold potentially is the greatest thrower of a football that's ever worn a San Francisco 49ers jersey, something along those lines. Uh, what was your reaction? Because I'm sure you had one, and I know you're going to give me a spicy take. So, what was your reaction on? I don't know if you listened to the whole quote or anything, but what was your reaction on
Well,
Mayoko said?
well, well. Look, I don't want to disappoint you, but I don't really have a spicy take.
Oh,
I mean, and it's more because I love Matt Mayoko. I respect Matt Mayoko. Matt Mayoko is one of the nicest people that I've ever met in this game, who is always good with his time, has always given me great advice, and always been nice to me. I respectfully disagree with this assessment, but y'all got to get up off Matt's back, man. Like, you guys were going so hard on the internet about it that he had to like write an article to basically speak about what he was trying to say. And it's like, look, man, everybody has takes. Takes are wrong. Matt has a take. I think what you should really look at is not the take of the most talented thrower of the football, but why is Matt Mayoko speaking about Sam Darnold only? And that's really what I took away from it, less than what he said, because Matt's not pulling things from thin air. Matt's not a hot take artist. Matt has heard things around the building, I'm sure. A lot of people like to say that he's the mouthpiece of the team. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but when Matt speaks, I listen. Not necessarily to the words, because I respectfully disagree with that assessment, but why is he going out of his way to speak about Sam Darnold? And I think that is more telling than anything that he could have said.
I think that's a good assessment of it. I agree too. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and of course, you drop a quarterback opinion in this day and age in San Francisco 49ers land, it's going to be met with a lot of confrontation or responses, whether it's pro Trey Lance, whether it's pro Brock Purdy, or pro Sam Darnold. It really doesn't matter, or vice versa. You just put out a polarizing take on any of these quarterbacks, you're going to get Johnny3978 quote tweeting you to death, and constantly reminding you of what you said about it, right? So that's just, that's social media in a nutshell in today's environment. But again, if you really try to pick apart what I think Mayoka was trying to say, he was more speaking to arm talent than anything else. I don't think he was talking about saying Sam Darnold is like the greatest quarterback that ever played for the San Francisco 49ers, because we know that's not true. I mean, look who's right over my shoulder right here. You could make the argument he is the GOAT. Obviously, Tom Brady is now considered in the recent era as that, but it was this guy before it was Tom Brady. And they have Steve Young. And, even hey, give Jeff Garcia some respect and the way he was able to spin it and some of the things he's done. Kaepernick at one point was dicing it up. So
Garoppolo, baby. Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself.
Jimmy Wheels, baby.
Jimmy Wheels, baby. Yo, put some respect on Jimmy, man. That Sam Darnold is better than Jimmy, man. What are we doing here?
So I think I understand I didn't read that article that he put out. I saw that he put it out, kind of putting out a response to it.
Yeah.
I can understand what he's saying. I can also understand how you saying something like that in this climate is going to elicit a massive response, which it did, and kept us all entertained. I think I didn't see it until like an hour after it dropped. I think I was live, and then I got online, and the firestorm had already picked up, and everyone's just going crazy. But again, it's like if we really want to drill down and evaluate this from a football perspective, Sam Darnold is a very talented quarterback in the terms of arm talent. Like that's why he was the number 3 overall pick. It's why he was considered as being potentially the number 1 overall pick when he was coming out, because his arm talent is through the roof. I had the opportunity to watch Sam Darnold in person, USC versus Cal, where the arm talent is fully on display. Like you're like, he had a couple throws where I'm like, wow, that I see what the hype is about. But also in that same game, he threw 3 of the most boneheaded interceptions I'd ever seen in my life, which is why I landed on calling him a bust, for lack of a better term. So with him, it's never been about talent. He's always been dare I say, a superior talented quarterback in regards to throwing the football. The problem is, can he throw it to the right jersey? Can he make the correct decisions and the progressions within the offense? And you can come up with a lot of excuses to why he hasn't, but the simple fact of the matter is that's where he struggled. He's struggled with getting the ball from A to B, and that's it. He can get it to A to B, and it looks absolutely phenomenal. I know 49er fans remember that rollout to the left basically going against the grain, sidearm whipped it like 40 yards downfield, and you're like, yeah, he's got arm talent. But what we're looking for Sam Darnold is for him to develop into a complete quarterback, right?
Yeah, there's more to the quarterback position than arm talent. There's guys that don't possess the arm talent but are very successful because there's so much more to it. But, I understand what he was saying. Is the talent has never been a question with Sam Darnold. Right? But just because you possess talent doesn't mean that you're going to succeed at the next level. And just get up off my guy, man. Leave Matt alone, man. Matt's a good dude, man. Y'all went so hard on him on Twitter that he had to answer all of you in an article.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Leave him alone, man. Again, it's not what he said that should bother you, but the question you should ask yourself is, why is everybody only discussing Sam Darnold? I haven't heard Matt Miyoko say anything literally on the radio about Trey Lance or anything like that. Why is no one discussing Trey Lance? Why is it everything about Sam Darnold? And that's more telling than any quote or opinion that he could give that he's probably heard in that building as well, too. Him saying that isn't his just personal opinion. That's probably what's rumbling around in that building. We know how much Kyle loves him. Kyle literally was going to trade a first round pick. Thank God the Jets said no. Yeah. Oh my God. The Jets said no. The Jets were like, no, we're good.
Thank you.
But it's really less about what he said and why there's more onus on Sam Darnold than there is on the kid who has a chance to gain reps and maybe wrestle this thing back while Brock Purdy is coming back from injury.
The other number 3 overall pick at the quarterback position, right? I think his name's Trey Lance. I think that's
I don't know at this point, man. The way everybody's treating him, you might as well call him Giovanni Carmazzi. My goodness, man. Like I have never seen a quarterback be discarded so quickly, man. I really haven't. Meanwhile, the patience that's
Yeah,
given to Sam Darnold and the patience that's given to other quarterbacks that are just not as good, it's nowhere near that for Trey Lance. It's a fascinating thing to watch play out in the court of public opinion.
yeah. Well, I mean, Sam is on his third team, and he's only 25, so he's been tossed into the dumpster heap a time or two by his former teams. So, I guess, but that's the thing, right? It's like you can't quit talent. Like talent, if the talent is there, someone is going to try to get it out of him, and that's the thing with Sam Darnold. And that's again, I'd never we've gone through this before on these
Mm-hmm.
shows. It's like I didn't like Sam out of the process. I didn't want him in the 49ers starting quarterback in 2021, but the context being what it is, and him being coming in as the number 3, I love Sam Darnold as the number 3 because I know he's talented. Now,
Mm-hmm.
can Kyle Shanahan take away a lot of that processing stuff from him? Because that's what Kyle does, right? Kyle is going to tell you where to put the ball. He's going to tell you where the open guy is going to be. And more often than not, he's going to be correct. So it actually comes out to be a pretty solid fit. And the other thing with, I think, Sam Darnold that I think is interesting is this is going to be
Mm-hmm.
like one of the first times in his career that he's not expected to be the starter. And I think
Yeah.
that from a psychological standpoint can also help build his confidence, because I heard him talking on a podcast before he signed with the San Francisco 49ers. And he's like, uh, I'm wherever I go, I'm going to win the job. And like, I was like, I actually believe you. Like, I felt like he's like, and I heard his story and how it has gone and the progressions. And he's like, you know what? I think Sam's in a spot where confidence has been a huge issue. I think you could probably say the same thing about Trey Lance, and maybe why we haven't seen Trey Lance blossom into the guy that we thought he could be and should be. You could probably drill it back down to confidence. I mean, you get thrust into a locker room that is rallied around Jimmy Garoppolo, and you're the guy who is taking his job, not going like you took his job when they drafted
Mm-hmm.
you at number 3, like that. The writing was on the wall, so that could have an impact on confidence. I think the same thing can relate to Sam Darnold. So I think when training camp comes around, you and I are both going to be there, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to it, because I'm not going, and I said this yesterday on my show, it's like I'm not going to come out here and make grand proclamations about Sam Darnold, Trey Lance, or Brock Purdy. But
Yep.
when it comes time to see these 3 guys throw the football, I'm going to be unbiased, objective, and tweet and report on what the facts are. I'm not going to be pushing no narrative. I don't care who wins the starting quarterback job, as long as the guy who wins the starting quarterback job leads the San Francisco 49ers to the playoffs. And then we can have a conversation at that point. And that's what's going to be fascinating about training camp is what who's going to be too scared to tweet out about Sam Darnold throwing a dart, or who's going to be maybe timid to put out a tweet that Trey Lance threw a really ugly pass. You know what I mean? And it's not like
Yeah.
to paint any one of these guys in any type of light, but we're going into our 3rd year of covering training camp. So
Mm-hmm.
we both, I think, are like established in what is to be expected and how that can potentially happen. But that's why training camp is going to be fascinating. And I'm just looking forward to seeing what these guys do. And I'm going to report on it exactly how it happens. Like I'm in no business of pushing any quarterback narrative. I was big on the Trey Lance narrative as a rookie. And that opened up my eyes to be like, all right, well, maybe you don't dig your heels into certain thing,
Mm-hmm.
and be objective, be a little bit more objective. So that's how I'm going to be trying to process this training camp.
Yeah, and what you guys have to remember is our opinions on what Sam Darnold is, whatever these quarterbacks are one thing, but objectively, there are going to be facts. There's going to be a bunch of people there as well too that are going to be reporting and talking about it. If we're saying something completely different than what people are saying, the only pushback that I would have is that last year, at training camp, there was this idea that Brock Purdy was lighting up training camp when there were days he wasn't. I didn't even know he was on the field. Like he didn't even take reps. So that was a little bit of a lie. I think you and I can both say no matter how much we root for Trey Lance and we root for all of these quarterbacks, Trey Lance was inconsistent last year, for lack of a better word,
He
right?
was inconsistent.
He
You
was
see
up.
the flashes, but like when you see players who are developing, you understand there's going to be inconsistencies that come along
Yeah.
with it. You just want to see the gap closed.
Yeah. So again, man, personal opinion should never come into objectively talking about things. So it is what it is, man. And another thing is no matter how I feel about Sam Darnold, if push comes to shove and Sam Darnold has to take snaps for this team in games, I don't want to see him fail because of my evaluation of how he played. You know, I think you guys have got it twisted. Like listen, don't get me wrong, and I think you guys know this. There's nothing better in this world than understanding that you were right. There's nothing better than saying I told you so, especially for me.
Oh,
I'm a
yeah,
very petty
I love
person.
doing it. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I'm a very petty person when it comes to things like that, right? But I don't want to be right in the face of this team struggling. I would rather be wrong about this. I would rather be wrong and Sam Darnold turn into this guy that everybody thinks he is and he plays well, regardless of who the quarterback is. At the end of the day, and I know this is going to sound cheesy, I still love this team, man, and I still want to see them win. You know, like, and I don't care who the quarterback is at this point. Give me the guy that's going to give us the 6th ring, and I don't care who that is, and I'll be happy, regardless of my personal feelings or evaluation of how they played in their career.
Exactly. And I also do believe like we're going to see the best version of Trey Lance that we've seen so far in his career. And we're also going to see the best version of Sam Darnold that we've seen in his career in training camp. And I think that's a good problem to have for the San Francisco 49ers. Like, what's the point of like getting all upset? Like, I can understand why people saw what Mayoko said and just lost their mind because
Yeah.
it invokes Joe Montana. It invokes Steve Young. I mean, these are untouchables. Like these are legends of legends on one of the biggest sports franchises in all of sport. So it's like I get it. I understand why it probably rubbed people the wrong way a little bit. But I also believe Trey Lance going into year 3 and Sam Darnold going through what he's gone through now in an environment that I think suits his skill set the best. I think we're going to see the best version of those two. And that is going to hopefully lend itself to making both those guys better. And then when Brock Purdy comes into the mix, potentially at the start of training camp, based on kind of like what John Lynch is talking about in regards to his timetable, he said that by the beginning of June, Brock will be throwing, and that will be 2 months out from training camp. So there is a shot that that Brock Purdy is ready for training camp. The best thing that could happen for the 49ers is all 3 of these quarterbacks push each other. And because if they're pushing each other, they're competing, they're getting better, the team is getting better. We should care less about who the quarterback is and just care that the quarterback that will be taking QB1 snaps is going to win football games for the San Francisco 49ers. That's what I care about.
And going into year 3 of covering training camps with Brad Graham and Jordan Elliott, I expect the best out of all 3 of us as well, too. I expected, like, the first year we fumbled through our reps, right? Like we were trying to figure out the cadence, how that works.
There's a lot going on at practice.
Yep.
Like if you say you have a grip on everything that's going on practice,
that's a lie.
There's too much going on. You got to pick.
That's a lie.
You got to pick your spots. I'm watching O-line, D-line 1v1s while linebackers, running backs are going, while cornerbacks, wide receiver. You can't watch it all. You got to.
We divvy it all up. That's the thing is Brad, Jordan, and I, we divvy it up. Okay, Brad, what are you watching? I'm watching D-line. Okay, I'm watching corners. Okay, Jordan, I'm gonna watch quarterbacks, and then we compare our notes at the end of the day. That's the thing is a lot of people just feel like, well, you have to know everything that's going on. There's so much going on, and then you have to remember too where we are. You're not allowed to have your phone out, and remember, Brad. They know who we are. They're watching us. Like they're watching. Like the people who work there in the stands are looking at Brad, Jordan, and I. Like is his phone out? Like,
Standing
what's
up
going
at the
on? Yeah.
very top,
Yep.
you're
Yep.
6'5".
Yep.
I'm freaking look like an offensive lineman out here. Jordan's no slouch himself at like 6'2", 6'3".
They're
We're
like,
just
put the
standing
phone
on the
down.
top.
All we're trying to do is just get out what we're seeing, right? So like you have to imagine,
Yeah.
right? There's all this going on, right? We're trying to tweet things out, we're trying to watch everything. I have my notebook that I write in every training camp that I'm there. And then also we're saying what's up to people, we're saying what's up to, like the people on the sideline that we know that are cool, we're cool with. So there's a lot going on in camp. But again, in year 3, I feel like we've got a better grip on it this time. But yeah, I remember the first 2 years that we were doing it. Every time that I would show up, with Jordan and the notebook, they would say, "Oh, those Seahawks scouts are back." Like.
Yeah, we developed a quick. All the security knew exactly where to look. They're like, "Oh yeah, those are the guys that we got to keep an eye on." Gammon Brown, appreciate the super chat. I'm gonna get through. I also got Justin with the super chat. Gammon says, "I cannot absolve content creators and journalists who cover the 49ers. Kings, Lakers, and Warriors fans also dual hat as 49ers fans. When you speak, you should know what's coming. Rabid fan bases, plural." And I do think in mid-thought, Mayoko knew exactly what he was
That's
saying.
why he stopped and said,
He stopped and said,
"Can I say this? Can I say this?" Like he knew,
exactly that he was tippy-toeing into that realm. And he's like, you know what? YOLO.
I got this. Let's go.
I've been doing
right?
this for a long time. I don't got to worry, and it's like.
I respect Matt a lot, man. I don't care what anybody says. Hey, listen, we have, I have takes that Brad disagrees with. Brad has takes I disagree with. It's all good, right? Nobody's going to be right with all of their takes. We all have opinions. We all have ways that we look at things. I respect the hell out of Matt Mayoko, man. He's been nothing but nice to me, man. I'm not going to give it to him like that, man. I'm really not. He's really a good guy.
I don't think it. I think again, I can quantify what he was saying, but you can also understand
why everybody was so mad
out of context as well. So
it
is what it is. I get it. It's just the nature of San Francisco 49ers social media at this point, which is why both you and I can do this for a living, because all the crazy people on social media who can't get enough 49ers content.
That's the thing too, is sometimes we look at the level of toxicity that at times can be 49ers Twitter and, God forbid, 49ers Facebook. Can I say that? Because some people send me comments like from Facebook. Yeah, no, I'm not on Facebook. Some people send me comments sometimes from like these 49ers posts, and my God, it's like it's like Twitter times 10 with the angry like replies and everybody else. But truthfully, with that, obviously there's good and bad in all fan bases. Truthfully, with that is the reason that you have so many successful content creators and why you guys continue to watch us, because you're so passionate. And without you guys, without that sort of passion, we wouldn't be able to, sit at home and talk about the 49ers and do all those things. Yeah, people go hard on Facebook. Oh my God, man. Like, again,
that's the original social media right there. That's where everyone really,
it is.
Shout out, no disrespect to AIM or MySpace or anything like that, but Facebook was the first mainstream. Everyone was on Facebook. Everyone. From
the
kids
thing is
parents.
And I'm old enough to remember when you had to have a college email address to get on the Facebook. That you weren't allowed to just sign up for Facebook. Like you had that, and when I was interning at Universal Records in New York, all of the kids there were actually college students. I had a fake internship thing, whatever. But they were on Facebook, and I'm like, what the hell? And they're like, well, what's your college email? And I'm like, oop. I was like, yeah, I'll sign up.
I'll figure it out.
You weren't even allowed to be on Facebook without a college email, like that you actually attended. So we've come a long way for sure.
Absolutely. Justin, appreciate the super chat, says, isn't the second half of the Texans game a bigger percentage of Trey Lance's career than the 6 games in Carolina of Darnold's career?
It is. So it's 6 out of 55. I'm not a numbers guy, but 1 out of 5? That's 20%. 6 out of 55 isn't 20%. So yeah, it is the second half of the Texans game, and he's just talking about 2 quarters. Just a little bit to this 6-game narrative about Sam Darnold, And I remember watching those games because, as you know, Brad, as many of the people that watch know, I'm a big fantasy football player, a big dynasty player, but I'm a big DJ Moore fan.
Mhm.
And I'm in playoffs and I've got DJ Moore, so I watched the Panthers. And I was happy that someone was in there getting him the ball. DJ Moore had a very good end of the season. So I went back and I watched them again because a lot of people talk about this 6-game stretch like Sam Darnold was Superman. And this is for the people that look at the box score and then, want to tell me, well, watch the tape. Well, guess what? I watched the tape and I watched it over and over. Okay. In 2 of those games, he has 0 turnovers. He had 5 turnovers throughout that 6-game stretch. So that means in 3 games, he had 5 turnovers. He ended with 6 touchdowns, and his QBR was something like 46.7. Now, raw stats, they can paint one picture one way, whatever it is that you want. But what I noticed was Ben McAdoo, the offensive coordinator, completely took away the deep shots in this offense. They ran the hell out of the ball with Deonta Foreman, and they were throwing intermediate to DJ Moore, to Terrace Marshall. I forget who's the other. Shaq Smith didn't really play that much. So
Laviska, Chenault,
Laviska, right? Chenault.
Laviska. Hasta la
So,
Vista, baby.
so the thing is this 6-game sample size that everyone raves about? I mean, the best that I walked away with after the second time watching him play, because I didn't really walk away blown away. I just said, oh, he looks all right. Is I can double down on that take. He looked decent. But the 6-game sample size, the way people talk about it, it makes it sound like he threw 13 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, was slinging this thing all over the field. No, he still had some of the baffling decisions. He still was putting the ball in linebackers' stomachs, which, again, you can blame coaching, you can blame situation, you can blame players, but coaches don't throw the ball to linebackers. Coaches don't fumble the ball silly. Coaches don't throw it right to cornerbacks. That's the stuff that kind of gets me upset. I understand situation and coaching and talent around you is one part of the evaluation process, but that seems to be the overarching reason, as if Sam didn't have control of not throwing the ball right to defenders. And that's the part that I have a problem with. Wrong play call, cool, I understand. Sometimes you have plays that, what are you calling there? You put him in a bad spot. You're putting him in a spot that he can't be successful. But what does coaching have to do when there's a linebacker in the middle of the field staring right at him and he throws it right into his stomach? And the linebacker is even shocked that the ball's in his stomach because he can't believe that he threw it to him. I can say in one breath that I understand the optimism about Sam Darnold because, like you said, you see the flashes on tape. But that optimism has led to some sort of certainty in a lot of fans' minds that, yeah, that 6-game sample size outweighs 49 other games. And that's this 6-game sample size thing. I just want to dispel this narrative. I really do. I'm tired of hearing about the 6-game sample size like he was beating the world. He looked decent at best. And he lost his job to Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield started early and then he came in, and it's just, I just have a tough time understanding this narrative. You can tell me in one breath that you're optimistic. He has all this talent. It's Kyle Shanahan, these weapons. Okay, I'm with it. But don't hold up this 6-game sample size to me as somehow this is, oh, he turned the corner, when 49 other games would show you a little bit more than 6 games would. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear you on that. I only watched one game and one game only of Sam Darnold during that 6-game spread, and that was the Tampa Bay game. And during that Tampa Bay game, I think that was the best game that he had in that 6-game stretch. And you got a sample size of all the good Sam Darnold. You got him escaping, resetting, throwing, finding guys open downfield. I think he hit like a 35-yard over the shoulder one-on-one coverage to like the left pylon for a touchdown to one receiver. You hit DJ on this deep 45-yard bomb where he got drilled in the process. You could see him throwing outside the numbers. You could see him throwing over the middle. And I think at the very end, he threw one, but he threw one directly into coverage. So that still exists. But I think, again, one of the things with Sam Darnold that you just have to just keep an eye on is that he can do it. The problem with Sam is the inconsistencies in which he looks like a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback, and he looks like he should never pick up a football because he's throwing into the teeth of a defense.
Right.
There's both. He has both to him. So this is how I always look at it, as a huge advocate of player development. I can look at a sample size. Again, I didn't watch all 6 games, so I can't pull from that. But I can see what he did in the Tampa Bay game and be like, okay, I can rationalize if he can get into a system, into a scheme where you can take away some of these processes from him and you start getting him in a place where this is where you go and he becomes confident within that scheme. The arm talent is there. He
And guys are
can
running
do it.
wide open, Brad, in this
Exactly.
offense. I mean, guys are
What
going to be
again,
wide
I
open.
said it before on this channel. It's like one of the things that I came away from watching Tampa Bay is he gets that ball out fast on wide receiver screens and accurately. And that is a huge part of the 49ers offense last year was the screen game. And a big reason why it wasn't super effective under Jimmy Garoppolo is because he was inaccurate and the timing wasn't great. And that's why they really couldn't execute the screen game, especially wide receiver screens, all that well. And then Brock Purdy comes in, and all of a sudden the screen game is taken to another level. And you think it would be layups, but that was one of the issues that I personally had with Jimmy Garoppolo is like if he's throwing into the flat, like he really had a hard time with either velocity or accuracy. I think back to the wide open Jeff Wilson play, I think in 2021 against the Jaguars, where he's running wide open about 5 yards away and he overthrows him. Or I can even go back to like 2019 and Tevin Coleman running towards the end zone, overthrowing. I think that was a game against the Rams. So the thing is like I can understand why you are hesitant to give any type of crown to Sam Darnold, as some people are, as I am as well. But I think as someone who evaluates talent and believes in people improving as well as getting worse, I think Sam Darnold has an ability to improve in this system. Will he? We are going to find out at the end of July. But I do think there is a world that exists where Sam Darnold can find success in the scheme. But I'm not going to stand on a soapbox and tell you that you are ridiculous if you don't think that's possible, because the very opposite is also possible. He could turn into a pumpkin, and we just never see anything come from Sam Darnold. Both things can be true. So
Absolutely.
I'm in wait and see mode. I think
That's it.
he's capable, but I also know what he's capable of, if that makes sense. He's capable of two different styles of play.
I see Jerome Smith's comment says, I'm sorry, Jason, I've been watching you for a long time, and you can't tell me that if some random person or writer said that, you would have lost your mind. Jerome, I have no retort to that because you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. He's talking about Matt Mayoko's comments. Again, like I said, I have a lot of respect for Matt Mayoko. He is somebody who's been very nice to me. So yeah, I definitely wasn't in the business of like trying to like rip him apart or anything like that. And yeah, that definitely plays a factor into it. So you got me there, Jerome. I ain't gonna lie about that. You got me there.
Well, anyways, I mean, Sam Darnold, biggest winner of Warriors versus Lakers potentially. Out there with Kittle and CMC shooting webs at Tom Holland and Zendaya. And like,
Respect my Spider-Man, pal. Respect my Spider-Man and his MJ. Respect him, pal. He is.
is Tom Holland your Spider-Man?
Oh
Would you-
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
for
yeah.
me,
We had this
for me, it's Toby Maguire.
Toby.
Like, yeah,
So
I'm a Toby guy.
we yesterday me and Grant did another show and I think it was Gammon that sent in a super chat talking about like who would beat who and who's your Spider-Man, and Grant said that he's never really seen any of the other ones and he just said Toby, right? That's the one. Toby Maguire's in the best Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man 2. That is the best live action Spider-Man movie still to this day, Spider-Man 2. However, Tom Holland's 3 movies altogether, especially No Way Home, and the way that they were able to turn basically those 3 movies into one long origin story for him, for me, is a better set of movies. And I don't even talk about Andrew Garfield, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I don't even remember that era. Just whoop.
Those three movies together are the best group of Spider-Man movies. So I've got Ace Bro. I remember walking out of No Way Home and nostalgia's there, right? I'm like, oh my God, all those Spider-Mans, it was so cool. You get to see Doc Ock, all that stuff. Man, I watched that movie 2 and 3 more times, and I lost love for it more and more. There's a lot of plot holes in it. It's a very good movie. I enjoyed it, but for me, they were banking on nostalgia with No Way Home so much that the nostalgia blinded people from the plot holes and the real issues in that movie at times. But the three movies that he has, all of them are good. They're the best, in my opinion. So I'm going to stick with Tom Holland, and he's Spider-Man going forward for a while. I'm glad we had this talk, Brad.
Bro, when are you gonna start the
movie podcast?
Too, dude, come on, man! Like you just broke that down, like
dude,
you're breaking down film. Like what are we like? Well, literally, you're breaking down film, but like, I mean, I'm not pulling none of that stuff out of watching those Spider-Man movies. So I'm just sitting there, just vibing out. Like you're like,
dude, I want to, I really do want to, man. But it's just there's so much going on with the, with this. So yeah, so it's just I would love to do that. That was, I had tried a bunch of podcasts before. I joined the 49ers thing. I just didn't know that you could do it live on StreamYard and all that stuff. Like I got my start being on someone else's show, and then it all kind of snowballed that way.
Of course.
But that's really like what I was passionate about. Like I've always loved sports. I've always loved football, but it was like music and reviewing movies and stuff like that. So it's always been there. But yeah, man, just not enough time. I want to hear Jason's take on the new Little Mermaid. Can't wait to see it, man. I'm so excited, man. Super excited.
Oh my goodness. You know what other take that we want to hear from Jason on?
Okay.
We want to hear.
I knew it. Here it is.
If Jake Moody can be the next Justin Tucker. Now, let me set you up a little bit. Obviously, the San Francisco 49ers, I think, shocked everyone. Like, whether you thought you saw it coming or not, I don't think you could say we saw Jake Moody being taken at 99. We always, it was there, at least in the back of our heads. Like, would they actually do it? Like, no, not the 49ers. They wouldn't do it. But in the meantime, we're like, well, they did take a punter in the fourth. So what would stop them from taking effectively a fourth round kicker, right? Because it's a comp pick in the third round. So it was at the very tail end of the third. They, of course, take Jake Moody, pick 99. You were able to grace us live with your presence, and we got your take on hand. But has it evolved at all? Or are you still in that same category of what are we doing taking a kicker in the third?
I don't really want to keep doing this. I think you guys know where I'm at. And the short answer is no. I have not evolved from this. This pick, this is the word I'm going to use. This pick feels a bit arrogant. And what I mean by that is you load up your roster with players because depth may come into play right away, right? Injuries happen. Offensive linemen get hurt, right? Corners get hurt. And you kicked away, you like that? A top 100 pick in the face of depth, possible players that can be starters down the line, can replace players, contribute on special teams in other ways like tackling and stuff. For me, I'm just going to keep it as this. No one will ever be able to justify this pick to me. You can just say, you can argue till you're blue in the face. You can write all those comments that you want under my videos about why you don't care. Good. If you like it, then I love it. But no one will be able to justify that pick to me. Nobody. Never. It'll never happen. It will never happen. And to Caesar's point, can Moody be the next Justin Tucker? He better be. He better be. But I'll tell you what Justin Tucker does better than Jake Moody. He's money from everywhere on the field. He's not 3 for 7 from 50. If we wanted 3 for 7 from 50, let's clear some cap space and bring back Robbie Gould. And I can't believe that the kicker discussion has pushed me to a point where I am advocating signing for a $5 million kicker. There's only been one other kicker who has been drafted that got a second contract with their team. Sebastian Janikowski. The last guy who was taken higher than Jake Moody was out of the league in 1 year, Roberto Aguayo. You know what really bothers me, Brad? And this is the last thing I'm going to say about this. When they asked Kyle Shanahan at the press conference, did all the people laugh at you that's your friends around the league? And he said, yeah, of course. And if someone else did it, I would have laughed too. That is super arrogant. You had a chance to add actual talent to this football team. And you said, we're so good everywhere else. We're not worried about any sort of depth. None of our players are going to get injured. Nobody's going to regress. We can show you that we're so good at what we're doing right now that I will literally take a kicker with this 100 pick instead of taking football players who can actually help your roster. I hope that was level-headed. I hope that, that it doesn't come off angry. A lot of time to stew on this one. But yeah, man, when they said we didn't need a starter at any position except for this one, it's hard to swallow. Okay, I'm done.
Dean's about to ship you a Moody jersey. I think it's got to be the new McKinnon jersey. I think you just got to lean into it.
I actually like Jet. I actually like the Jet McKinnon signing. I thought Jet was gonna be a baller. I thought Jet was gonna work. He just got hurt, and it just was all bad luck. And then if you need more proof, his name isn't Jarek Jet Tired Legs. He's Super Bowl champion Jerick McKinnon, who had a chance to run in that final touchdown and slid and won the game for the Chiefs, by the way. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
I actually like Jet. That's part of that joke. That I actually liked the Jet signing because I was like, oh wow, they're gonna throw the ball to him in the backfield.
Yeah.
I thought he was gonna be very.
He was like Christian McCaffrey, basically.
For sure. I didn't like the money because that was a lot of money up front. Yeah, but I saw the fit. I saw the move right there. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Jake Moody thing, back to the original question, will he be the next Justin Tucker? That's what I don't love about taking the kicker at 99 is because now that's the expectation. That's the floor. The floor is he needs to be in that Justin Tucker conversation. And I think that puts a lot of pressure on people. But again, it's that's what the kickers have to deal with. They are put into pressure situations all the time, and they're expected to succeed. So as long as he can manage those pressures, I guess that's what we got to hope for. But
Brad will have eyes on the quarterback competition. Brad's gonna have eyes on the quarterback competition, and I'll be watching Zane Gonzalez and Jake Moody.
Please report. Let us know how Taper Pepper's long snaps are looking.
They don't do anything at practice. They don't do anything. None of them. They all just sit in the corner. How is this competition going to be? How is this competition going to be evaluated? They don't even practice.
Bro, I remember 2019 training camp. It was before, this was my first taste at doing what we do now, where we go into the stands, but we're actually covering the practice. The punter content that came out of the 2019 training camp was the most engaged with content from that time. So get ready. Kicker content. We're going through the moon, baby. So the biggest thing, though, with in all reality is, again, I'll always have a hard time with the positional value, right? Because we love the draft and we love we looked at an opportunity for the 49ers to take a premier position.
Isaiah McGuire, Blake Freeland.
Right. You had McGuire, Freeland, even my guy
Keely Ringo.
I didn't think they were going to take. There's a
Keely
bunch
Ringo.
of guys. Right. And so on the outside looking in, when we were all year we're talking about positional value, and then you take a pick where the positional value is slotted in the 7th to undrafted, and you take him at 3rd. What do you got?
I'm sorry. It's Adrian's comment. We ain't forgetting the double agent Eagle Aponte allegations.
Oh, we got a double agent on our hands?
Yeah. Oh, wait, oh my God. All right. So I know exactly what he's talking about. I just forget what show it was or whatever. I think it was because I said that back in the day. You remember when jerseys were the rage and we all wore 6XL jerseys and everything with the hats, and we painted our Air Forces just to match the, to match the colors. I think I said I had a Donovan McNabb jersey back in the day or whatever. So that's where that came from. That's funny as hell, Adrian. I'm trying to remember what show that was on. I think it was with you where we were talking about that. It was like that I've been living close enough to Philly to be a double agent and all that stuff. Like it's still really.
I vaguely remember something like that.
Yeah,
but
that's so good.
Don't put it past him. I mean, he's a New York Yankees fan, so anything's possible.
What does that mean? Ho.
Look at that hat right there.
What are we doing here?
We're throwing.
No. Oh, all right. So Adrian got it. He said, it was when I said that we should lose the Raiders game and not have a chance. I didn't say again.
That's what there it is. That's exactly what I was thinking.
That's it. That's it. Again, Adrian's being funny. That's not what I said, but that's how everybody was taking it. I literally asked Brad just a question about that, right? Because they would have had to have won like 14 straight games to win the bowl. Yeah, and you flipped it on me. But Averly, I didn't say that. Okay, you remember, right, Averly? Right? Okay, thank you, Boo Boo. Good insight.
Gammon says we're cooking with chili powder. Like and subscribe.
Shout out to the Bod Squad.
Make sure you like and subscribe. Both channels, we going up. But again, it's also just a good time, man, because we're on the other side of the draft. Mocks are done. Free agency. I mean, do you think the San Francisco 49ers, with the restructuring of Christian McCaffrey, clearing up quite a bit of cap space, are we going to potentially? I mean, the 90-man roster has been filled, so there's not really any spots, but they can move someone off at any time. Do you think the 49ers are going to be in the business of adding some edge players, or do you think that ship has sailed? And my tinfoil hat theory of Eric Armstead going to the edge could be viable.
I think honestly what the 49ers are trying to do is just keep themselves flexible for an in-season move, right? I'm not from the Bay, so I don't care about the Raiders, man. I've lived on the East Coast my entire life. The Raiders.
Tell them it's suspect. We gotta keep our eye on Aponte over here.
The Raiders don't bother me. I don't care. They've always sucked.
See?
I don't get mad at teams that generally suck like the Raiders do, like they always do. Shout out to my boy Jimmy GQ out there, though. But God, what was I just saying? Go Bills. When did I say that? I mean, I'll circle the wagons when they don't play the Niners. I don't got no problem with them either. Goodness gracious, I don't even know where we were right here with this one.
I'm starting to forget too. We're just kind of vibing at this point.
About the cap space. Okay. So I mean, you've seen in 2019 the 49ers, get Emmanuel Sanders, obviously not a big contract. You do that again with Christian McCaffrey in season. I think the 49ers just want to have that money around and available in case the 49ers have to make a move in season. Maybe there's a team that is not performing to the expectations and they want to clear some good players off of money and things like that. The 49ers will keep themselves flexible to do that. So for me, of course, I would love for them to sign Justin Houston. I would love for them to, maybe bring in a Marcus Peters to be there as more depth at corner. There's a lot of good players still left out there. But I do think the 49ers are kind of just doing this just to, one, they didn't need all that money to sign their draft class because it's only going to take about $2-3 million of the cap. But yeah, I think it's there for them to do whatever they want. And then after the Nick Bosa extension, the Niners will have 15-18 million, just enough for Brady. And Damon, I'm not saying that they're keeping it open for a quarterback. I'm just saying they're just keeping it open just in case. And I think that's where I'm at with that. I really think that during the season, the way things play out, you lose a player to an injury, you need to fill a need, you can trade for somebody in the season. The goal for this team is still Super Bowl, regardless of who the quarterback is, get there and get over the hump. So that's why you have to keep that money open for you. And then, the Bosa extension, to Damon's point, it'll clear up more cap space because the first year the cap doesn't really toll when it comes to those extensions.
Kick it out, basically.
You kick that out. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I just think it's just in case. That's my take.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. I don't know if anything's going to happen, but something fun to think about because they did go edge. They took Beal out of Georgia in the 5th. If you had to tell me your favorite draft pick that the San Francisco 49ers made, who would it be?
Jair Brown. Jair Brown. I mean, A guy who really has a skill set similar to Talanoa Hufanga, somebody who I think is very flexible, can come down, play in the box, can play in the slot against tight ends, maybe bigger wide receivers. A hitter, plays very fast, doesn't have straight line speed in terms of like 40, but he did test very well. His athleticism is actually a little bit unheralded. I love the Jair
He
Brown
looks
pick.
great on film
Yeah.
to me. Like that wasn't something that really jumped out to me at all.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Is people get enamored with, oh, what he run is 40, what's his 10-yard split. But if he's not playing fast on film, then it really doesn't matter, right? And that's what you see. You see a guy who's firing, somebody that they can use on blitzes. I think that's another important part of his game. Very much like Hufanga. You got a ball hawk, a guy who's around the ball all the time, who instinctually plays fast. I love this pick a lot. And this is, again, the 49ers having someone who possibly can contribute this year, but I think they're good with Gibson and Hufanga. But Gibson's gone next year, and then you can just move Brown in there. I love this pick, man. And D Winters is another good one. You guys are right.
Yeah, I agree with you. Jair Brown, that was the move that I really, really liked, especially having the conviction to trade up and go and get him. And again, for all the things that you said, he fits exactly what he's such a good complement, I think, to what Talanoa Hufanga is. Like he does remind me a little bit of Gip in the sense where they can kind of do a little bit of everything. But I do think Jair is going to be able to bring this other level to the San Francisco 49ers that they haven't had in a safety tandem. I mean, we look at Kwaski, we look at Jimmy Ward. Before that, we had a couple of different guys, but the one that sticks true to 49ers fans was Whitner and Goldson. And but that was also a different era too, where it was
you could actually hit.
Still. Yeah, and you could actually hit, and they could change the dynamic. Now, I would say these two safeties fit kind of what the modern NFL is, and I think it frees up Talanoa to play his brand of ball, which is almost like a freelancer, like kind of just reading and reacting. Let him kind of do what he wants to do. Obviously, play within the structure, but he won't be the single high anymore. Put Jair Brown there, let him cook. If I had to give another pick that I really liked, you mentioned D Winters. He's really fun to watch on tape. But Braden Willis is interesting. Obviously, Cameron Latu as well. But Braden Willis is interesting. I like the juice that he's already showing and bringing with his confidence. And I think as a pass catcher, he shows some dynamic range, like kind of like a bulky wide receiver in a sense. So
yeah,
I'm interested to see how he's going to translate into this offense and what he could actually do, because he can also get it done as a blocker lightweight as well. So I think Braden Willis is an interesting one. Again, it's going to be interesting to see how Beal fits into this defense. I think obviously they circled him and they identified that he can do what he wants to do. Though we have an Averly appearance. Hi, Averly.
Say hi to Brad.
Hi, Brad.
Wow, great job. Go in your room, and I'll be over there in a little bit.
Beautiful smile. But with Beal, he looks like he could fit exactly what the San Francisco 49ers want from kind of he looks like he could play a little bit inside too, like one of those kind of inside out guys. Overall, what would your take be on the draft? I mean, I'm looking at it. I like the Jair Brown pick. I'm trying to rationalize the Jake Moody pick as much as I can, outside the difference of opinions that I have with positional value. But you get two tight ends, you get D Winters, you get Jalen Graham, you get.
We're right about that, right? In our mock, we double dipped on tight ends, right?
Dipped on tight ends, and then also you look at the undrafted free agent class. Like if you look at everyone that they've brought in, I think there are going to be guys from the undrafted free agent class that are probably going to either push for a roster spot or be on the roster via practice squad a year or two from now. How would you kind of quantify the whole draft, from a high level perspective?
Day 2 was a little bit head scratching. I think I was so blinded by the pick 99 that pick 101 didn't really set in for me. Like I had Latu. Yeah, I had Latu way later.
I think everyone did.
The Braden Willis pick, though, I really like because he can play like Kyle Juszczyk's role. And obviously, Juice is here to stay because he has the contract and he's so good at what he does. I'm not trying to downplay that, but he's flexible. He can be a red zone guy. I really have higher hopes for Braden Willis, I think, than Ladu, in my opinion. But again, day two aside, the next day, I feel like the 49ers did what the 49ers usually do. And they identified guys with the traits that they liked, that they can coach up. I walked away with a much better feeling about this draft after, right? Like I know that we joke about this, right? Oh, we should start the draft in the fourth or fifth round for the 49ers. But this year, I think, aside from the Jair Brown one, I think that's especially true. And I think that that's what's really funny about it. And a lot of people are rationalizing the Jake Moody pick by, well, Bill Belichick took a kicker. Well, he took a kicker and a punter. Let me ask you guys also.
That made me feel a lot better. I'm not going to lie.
Nope. It did not. It did not. It did not.
We have traded into the fourth to take him at least and take my offensive tackle. They're like, nope.
It did not. It did not. Here's why it didn't. A lot of people have a hard time separating Bill Belichick, the general manager, and Bill Belichick, the coach. And the same thing kind of goes for Bill O'Brien in Houston. Bill O'Brien, the general manager, was terrible. Bill O'Brien, the coach, won 12 games almost every single year like clockwork when he was there. He just was getting rid of he was just getting rid of players for pennies on the dollar, and he was overpaying for players. Two things can be true. Bill Belichick's a GOAT coach. Bill Belichick might not know nothing about being a GM. And when you look at some of the picks, Chase Winovich, N'Keal Harry, even like Tyquan Thornton, like there's many misses from him. So for me, using Bill Belichick's logic to say, oh, well, Bill did it, that's okay. You're confusing Bill, the coach, with Bill, the GM. And one more thing. I just want to point this out real quick. Has Bill Belichick won anything since Thomas Brady left his team?
Not with Mayo Mac.
Just asking questions here. I mean, maybe we need to start, like, I'm not taking away from how great a coach Bill Belichick is, do your job, all that stuff, right? But can we start to maybe put a spin that maybe Tom Brady had a little bit to do with that and he hasn't won anything since he's left? Just asking. Don't use his logic to back up at that point about that pick. Don't use that logic because I'm going to use it
because I need anything I can to make me feel better about.
That did not make me feel better. That did not make me feel better.
It made me feel better.
I laughed at him.
Someone else would have taken him if we did.
I laughed at him the same way I would have laughed at any team that would have done that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I don't want to hear that. Do not throw that at me and then say, this isn't. Nope. Two things can be true. Bill Belichick is goated as a coach, but that was pretty stupid to take a punter and a kicker. And drafting punters and kickers haven't gotten them a championship. Adam Vinatieri wasn't drafted. Guys, let's remember that.
So, I just pray Moody becomes a 12-year veteran. He doesn't bust out.
Me too.
He doesn't buckle to the pressure, and I'll be able to rationalize it once he wins us a couple games.
Me too.
But until then, we're gonna work our way through it.
I'm done talking about it. This is the last time that I'm speaking about that pick. The last time
until training camp, and we start seeing that kicker battle in full-fledged.
I can't wait to see what that looks. What is that? So what is that going to look like, Brad? Right? Let's paint the picture for the people that have never been to training camp. Quarterbacks. First team, last year it was Trey Lance. Second team, Nate Sudfeld. Brock Purdy would get whatever, 1 or 2 reps at the end there, and then they would go right back to Trey and run it back. What does a kicker competition look like? Because they don't stop practice so they can kick. They don't stop practice and stop the football players from playing that they have to evaluate to say, kick off. Everybody, all right, you go first, and everybody gets around in a.
They don't have one-on-ones kick.
They don't have one-on-one. They don't have one-on-one kicker. How does this kicker competition look? How does this look? What? They don't stop practice. For anybody that's been there, I'll set the scene for you. Robbie Gould, Mitch Wisnowski, and Tabor Pepper. They jog real quick around the field, and then they go sit in the corner, and that's all they do. They don't do anything.
This is how I would see a kicker competition playing out because they will go through their warm up period, then they go through their stretch line, then they go through individual drills, and then they are before all of that they do a
He
install
said
walkthrough.
he said it's settled with an Oklahoma drill.
That would be I would pay to watch that.
I got my money on Moody then. I got my money on Moody then. I'm sorry.
But it's so they have their install period, then it's warm-ups, then it's individuals, then sometimes they will break the practice, right, and have a special teams period where everyone goes to the sideline, they bring in the kicking unit, they'll kick from 25, 35, 45, right? So the only thing that I could think of is they run through that twice. They run through it with Moody, and then they run it back with Zane. And that's the only way I could really truly envision a battle between a kicker, because you have to have them do somewhat the same things. And so just like they would with the kicker, or excuse me, with the quarterback, or O line or anything like that, they're going to rotate. So that's the only way that, like, because if they're off to the side kicking, like they have that side field where they kick and do their own thing for a little while, the only way I could see it being a competition is if during special teams period, they're actually rotating through it. So it'll be interesting to see how it all comes down.
Well, let's take this real quick because there's some really good comments here. Damon Lotto is exceptional at the catch point with some strength. He'll be an imposing blocker. Kittle's air watch. That's look again. While I agreed that I thought it should have been later on, it's clear the 49ers see something in him. So I am going to give them the benefit of the doubt. When it's football players, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, right? Like they like something about this player. They usually have a great eye for talent and things that they like. So I'm not saying the lotto pick is bad, right? It wasn't in the spot that I thought it would be in, but obviously they clearly thought they had to get their guy right there. And you know what? Whatever, doesn't matter where he's taken. If Lotto does become the heir apparent to Kittle and he does that, then we're not going to be arguing about that anymore. But
Right.
the
I think the thought process is, oh, maybe you could have got him in the 5th round and not the 3rd. And it's more, again, just a value conversation. He might turn out to be a great tight end, but it just comes down to, like, could you have gotten him maybe a round or two later?
How about the Niners says kicker competition idea? 9 rounds of bare knuckle boxing. Whoever wins gets the job. My God, man, if that's how we're gonna figure this out, sign
No
me up.
at the end of the day, if that's how
Sign me up. I will have no notes on Sam Darnold, Trey Lance, Brock Purdy. I am gonna be locked in on this fight, man. And still, I got Moody, man. Zane's been too injured. Seems like when he gets into a fracas and you start to see those hands get thrown a little bit, if he gets hit in the wrong spot, he's gonna be injured, and Moody's gonna take advantage. I got Moody, man. Give me Moody in that instance.
We gotta go Moody. We have there's no other choice. We have to go Moody. He's a top 100 pick. That's our guy, Jason.
Yeah.
And we'll get around to it.
Look at Mike.
Again,
Curious what the Niners fan base said about Kittle 5th round pick. I will tell you this: what Brad Graham said about the George Kittle 5th round pick was he loved it, and he loved it from the beginning. He was the one banging the table for Kittle.
I was banging the table for Kittle like I was with Saldivari and Freeland or any of these other guys. Kittle was my guy, like my guy in that particular draft. So I was all about it. But anyways, we'll see. We'll see.
I know it really no more kickers.
We'll
no
see.
More kickers, I promise.
We'll see what the draft is and what it ultimately comes down to. Because again, like at first, the Trey Sermon pick intrigued me, and then we got into training camp and we're like, we put our goggles on and we looked at Trey Sermon like this, and we were like,
he's not good.
We're like maybe not so good. And after that, the rest is history. So we know that the 49ers don't have a perfect track record, right? But they have a good enough track record that we can give, like you said, the benefit
of the doubt. And that's the thing is, obviously crapshoot, whatever it is, I understand that. You have to mitigate that risk though, like again, like with taking players that you're convicted on, like John Lynch continues to say. So yeah, I mean, I do want to say this though. With the 49ers carry 6 wide receivers, Brad, right? Let's lock
5
in.
last year, but they've carried as much as 7. I think you go
Okay.
back to the Dante Pettis, Trent Taylor era, Kendrick Bourne, they had 7 at one point, but
Hmm.
last year they had 5. So,
Let's do this. Let's do a real quick exercise because I do think that
yes.
there are two players that were draft picks last year in the third round that are in deep trouble this year. Ayuk, Samuel, Jennings.
Mhm.
What else we got?
Ray
Ray
Ray.
Ray. That's 4. Who's your fifth receiver?
You would have to assume at this point that Danny Gray would be slotting into that spot.
Danny Gray's in trouble.
Is he?
Danny Gray's in trouble, and he needs to turn it up this year because him and TDP are in trouble. This draft. I mean, from last year's draft, man.
All right.
Um, when you look at the way that they've been going about the wide receiver position, I mean, again, Brian says Isaiah Winstead. Um, you know, Willie Snead again gets signed again. Like, like obviously he may not make the 53. I doubt he does.
But
Um,
he didn't make the 53 last year. He was a practice squad guy.
no,
They
and
would elevate
they would
him.
rotate him up. They would bring him up, bring him down. I get that part. I just the young man that they have as the undrafted free agent, at running back. I think he has a better shot at overtaking TDP. Hmm.
Laybourne. Mhm.
Yep, he's Jordan. He's the Jordan Mason this year.
He has
I think
real talent. He's
he
just
does. He was a 5-star recruit.
his story, is
Yes.
what lent him to be undrafted. Like,
Yeah.
his whole trajectory, which again, I love these types of players because
Mhm.
everyone's path is linear. Like, again, you can see a 5-star. I always use my Stephon Diggs example. So I think Stephon Diggs was a 5-star recruit, goes to
Yep.
Maryland. Maryland doesn't do anything, so he gets no hype, nothing. And in my head, I'm like, he didn't just become less talented. He didn't really have a quarterback. They didn't produce.
Oh,
They
and
didn't win.
Chris Conley. I
Chris
forgot about
Conley
him.
was the other one that they
Chris
signed.
Conley,
And
and then obviously Ronnie Bell is in this. I'm sorry, I didn't mean
yeah,
to like cut you off there. I
Ronnie
was just
Bell.
trying to
No, no,
remember
no.
like all these guys.
But my example is Stephon Diggs because he's the 5th-round
Mhm.
draft pick, but he's
Mhm.
a star wide receiver in this league and has been ever since he was taken. And it's the same concept: is these guys have talent, but their paths aren't always linear. They're not always considered the best player coming out of their position because they didn't produce, and that could be for a lot of different reasons. So Laybourne is kind of like that. He went from FSU to ACL injury to out of football for a couple years, winds up at Marshall. You know what I mean? So his path hasn't been traditional, but he has talent. So him, Joey Fisher's another guy that I think is
Mhm.
interesting. I mean, what I'm looking for Joey is to see how he translates to the NFL. But bringing it back to the wide receiver room, they have 16 wide receivers, right? So I think and we know that's Kyle's room. Kyle is the de facto wide receiver coach, even though he's a head coach. He's a wide receiver at heart, so that's his room. And that's what we've all heard is that he is the wide receiver coach, basically.
Mhm.
So he holds these guys' feet to the fire constantly, and he expects a lot out of them. Some sink, some swim. Ayuk swam, Dante Pettis sunk. Like, so there's examples both ways. Um, but I think with Danny Gray, to your point, is we really didn't see a whole lot of him last year. We started to see him at the end of the year, but they don't wait for anything. They're going to
Yeah.
bring in additional talent, and if you can't cut it, they're on to the next, right? So it'll be interesting.
And Ronnie Bell feels like a Jawan Jennings replacement for next year. Like he feels like when Jawan Jennings is done with his exclusive rights
Yeah, he'll be an
contract that
unrestricted free agent
he'll be
next
an
year.
unrestricted free agent. I'm sure somebody's going to want to sign him, and the 49ers are probably going to let him walk in again. Another example of the 49ers addressing the position before they need to address it again and having someone that they really like. Ronnie really looks like a Kyle Shanahan receiver, man, like what Kyle likes in receivers.
Isaiah Winstead, obviously his story is intriguing, but he looks like an intriguing athlete. I mean, the way he
Absolutely.
moves for his size, and he put up decent production. I mean, 1,100 yards is nothing to scoff at. So
Mhm.
it'll be interesting to see what he looks like so far. Love the story. And I love the physical tools that he has. We'll see how it
Mhm.
translates at the next level. But again, we see guys from these undrafted classes pop all the time. Corey says, isn't 8 out of 10 of the 49ers drafts in trouble after just 1 to 2 years, including Trey?
I mean, they cut bait on Sermon, Pettis. CDP feels like he's going to be in that same lane. Ambry Thomas is in trouble.
Definitely Andrew Thomas is in trouble. Luter's probably going to replace him.
Luter's absolutely going to replace him. He's better. So I just, again, at the same time where we talk about like, oh, well, isn't 8 out of the 10 drafts, you lose all these guys. Yeah, but, I can live with the misses, which again are in the third round. Fred Warner becomes the guy that really paid off in the third round. When you're able to get Dre Greenlaw on the back end, Kittle and all these other guys. And that's the thing, is like, it is a crapshoot, but there's just something weird about the third round for this team. Joe Williams was in the fourth round. That doesn't count, and he also didn't play football because he was injured. So
CJ Beathard was a third rounder.
CJ Beathard's a third round pick, right? Like, it's so now Danny Gray, TDP, Ambry Thomas, all these guys in the third round that are just like, and I do agree to somebody's point that said, like, is it really his fault because he hasn't really been playing? And it did feel like Danny Gray was here to fit with Trey Lance. But still, at the end of the day, it's not going to come down to, oh, well, he had some poor luck. Like, the 49ers show you real quick that they're going to cut bait with you if you're not doing what's expected. So I just expect a little bit more in terms of the wide receiver position from him, but we just haven't been able to see it. But again, that may not be enough to keep him on this team. And it's crazy to think that the 49ers have loaded this roster up with draft picks that have been later on, but they just swing and miss and swing and miss so much in the third round, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. I'll say this about Danny Gray. I think Danny Gray will be on the roster this year. I don't think he's going to get cut. One of the things that makes me feel that way is towards the end of the year, he was getting reps and he had a couple good reps as a blocker. And again, as a wide receiver on this team, you got to be able to show that you're a willing blocker. And I saw that part, and I at least saw a glimpse of it as him being a smaller stature wide receiver. And we've also seen the glimpses. If you go back to last year's training camp, there was a day where he was the best wide receiver in camp and he went nuclear. So the potential's there. He has a skill set. I've seen him show a willingness to block late in the year last year on film. So I don't think they're going to necessarily cut bait this year, but I do think they are absolutely looking to bring in more competition and potentially push him to be better. So we'll see. I still think Danny Gray is on this roster after this year. I think what the question is going to be is, do they carry 6 wide receivers? I kind of
kept Jalen Hurd for a minute. Jalen Hurd, third round pick.
We kept Jalen Hurd for a cool minute.
Don't say that name because it makes me wistful and sad about Terry McLaurin.
See, I like that. Tay Martin's one of my guys. Big
That's
play
another one.
Tay. I really like big play Tay. He's been working too. He's been working with one of the top wide receiver trainers in the offseason. So he's been putting in work. Tay's a guy that you don't want to sleep on either. So the 49ers are going to have a hell of a competition at the wide receiver room, that's for sure. So it's going to be fascinating to see how it ultimately plays out. But at the end of the day, can't do it until you get on the field, right?
That's it. Can't wait for training camp. It's going to be electric, man. And just every day that we're doing this, like, I know that we said that we don't want to talk about the quarterback position, but it's so hard not to at this point. I did like what you said earlier, though. I really think that John Lynch wasn't lying when he was talking about week 1 for Brock. And when you look at the timeline, it's starting to line up a little bit more for that. So maybe all this discussion in terms of, who's going to start, Lance or Darnold, might be moot if they feel Brock is ready to go. And you know what?
If Brock is ready by preseason week 3,
throw him in there. Throw him in there. Yeah, and that's it. And let's put it all to bed and let's roll. Like, I'm fine with that, man. I really am, man. That's probably, I know that content creation and being able to drive discussion is what we do. But best case scenario for all of us is that Brock is ready to go week 1, and that's it. And they just roll with Brock and they just go. And I would love that, man. Exactly. I would love that because then it puts all the other stuff to bed, and we could just roll. Like, just start playing games and win games now. We don't have to worry about what happens when Brock comes back. This guy played this well for this long. What happens? The best case scenario is Purdy's ready to go week 1. Best case scenario.
Yep, and I mean, it looks like it's aligned with that. And again, I think you go back to the owners' meeting, and it was just a little bit of damage control. Rather than putting the expectation at the start of training camp, Kyle moved the goalpost to week 1 to week 4, and you
Mhm.
saw just from him moving the goalpost the way the fan base reacted to it, which I thought was a 40 chess move. I was like, "Good job, Kyle!" Like, I think what John was being 100% truthful in the fact that they think he could be ready by the start of training camp. But by saying that, you set the expectation that he's going to be there by the start of training camp. And if he's not, it becomes an issue versus, well, let's say we expect him at the start of week 1 and he comes in before that, a whole month before that. Oh, look at how he's healed. Look at how fast, it's a smart way, I think, to package a very delicate situation revolving injury. But I think all things considered, he could be ready to go week 1 when it's all said and done. Damon says, does the wide receiver competition push them to trade Brandon Ayuk? I don't think so. What about you?
I don't think so either. I like the skill set of Ronnie Bell and some of the guys that they have, but I don't feel like any of them match up with Ayuk. Like if you're looking to replace for one and the skill set, I don't think any of those guys are that. I think the 49ers are going to have him play on his 5th year option and then try to see what happens to see if they can come to an agreement. Again, depends on the timing of the Bosa extension, all of those things. And if they could find a way to get it done. The problem is that everybody always wants restructures. What they don't realize is that when you restructure, you're just kicking the can down the road a little bit more, and that's why D Ford is still on the books. Oh, well, just restructure this guy, and we'll clear this amount. That's why the 49ers were so hesitant to do that. They don't want to automatically do that right away if they can't help themselves. So I just think that right now it's a fluid situation, but I would put my money on them not trading him. If they were going to, it would have been draft day for something like a first round pick or something that they could have used as tangible. You're not going to move him now for a future first instead of just using him right now as the player that he is.
I think you would be absolutely insane to trade Brandon Ayuk, who's going to get paid $4 million next year, to be your wide receiver too. The value that he provides is far outweighs, at least if you are truly determined on challenging for a Super Bowl, your best bet is with Brandon Ayuk on the roster, not the other way around. I know you always have to keep one eye on roster construction 1 year, 2 year, 3 years out, and of course, and that's a conversation that is um, valid to have with Brandon Ayuk. But if you want to win, they picked up the 5th year option that kicks in 2024. You're getting Brandon Ayuk at arguably one of the biggest steals in the entire NFL at 4 million, just under 4 million next year. And then I think what next year could be like a preliminary contract year, where if Brandon Ayuk produces 1,300 yards, 1,400 yards, I really do think he's capable of doing that. But if he does that, then I think that's when they don't play him on the 5th year. They might talk about contract extension. But again, we'll see, because Nick Bosa just played on the 5th year, right?
He did. Yeah.
So if Nick Bosa is going to play on the 5th year, you can make the case that probably Brandon Ayuk's going to play on the 5th year, and then they'll talk about a contract extension. But we'll see how it goes. I don't think he's going anywhere.
No, I don't think so either. I actually got to go, but I laughed at Mike's latest comment. If Trey and Darnold can't, then get Dr. Disrespect. Yo, the 2 times got a cannon, man.
Bro, out here throwing bombs, man.
Nukes is like 50, 60 yards. He used to play college basketball.
Dude's a unit. He's like
He's
6'7",
huge, 6'7". Yeah, yeah, man. I love
prototypical
that.
quarterback size. But I'll let you get out of here. I know you're on daddy duty, so you gotta.
She's frying me in the background, dude. I guess her iPad died. My God, man, why don't they
Oh,
make iPads that never die?
But it's always a blast for the state of the franchise. Shout out to everyone who tapped in with us. You got anything cooking? Any other? I mean, it is Friday, so probably gonna vibe into the weekend.
Yeah, I'm gonna chill this weekend, man. Is what it is. Every day, Niners Nation. You know what's going on. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's what's going on there too. Has to go state of the franchise for the Eagles. Unfortunately, I'm the practice squad content creator. They haven't called me up to do it yet. They're holding on to my rights. But yeah, Niners Nation. That's where you can find all my stuff on Twitter. Jason Aponte 2103. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to both channels, everything as well too. So yeah, man, same old. You know what it is. We're ramping up, getting closer to the season. That's awesome, man, and I can't wait. I'm excited to talk more with you guys and hopefully see you guys in some games, man. Let's go.
Yeah, we're in the part of the off season where it feels like forever until training camp, but it's also that point where it's like it does go by fast. It's that weird slow but fast period of the year.
I love the people correcting Niner Empire, bro. I work for Niners Nation. I don't care what you want to label it. I work for the company Niners
It's the
Nation.
empire, bro.
It's not a nation. It's an empire. I work for Niners Nation. I don't care about what you want to call it. Jesus Christ.
It's Raider Nation, bro. We're not the Raiders, bro.
God.
It's empire,
of all the things
bro.
we should be arguing about right now. God, man.
It never fails. Anytime any player calls it Niners Nation, it's empire.
I don't care. I work. Niners Nation pays the bills, bud. I don't care. God.
Oh, great show as always. Shout out to everyone for tapping in. That's it for us today. You know the vibes. We're out of here. Peace. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now.